Oh man. Every so often I do this very thing. Back you guys, I'm gonna be consistent. I'm gonna stay uploading on a regular basis. Boom. 3 months go by. The last thing I talked about on this channel that has anything to do with the main focus of this channel was the Fantastic Four movie that came out almost 4 months ago. It's gotten away from me a little bit, but I'm back. And to be honest, I meant to come back like a month ago because I was gonna do a nice review of Ghost of Yotei, because I played that pretty much nonstop after it came out, and I did review the first game, so I thought it'd be nice the second one. Um, Lost all motivation to do so because I just kept playing it and time kept passing. And then Peacemaker Season 2 was coming out, and I was like, should I do a video about that? I didn't do one about Season 1, but I might do one about Season 2 if there is demand. So I'm gonna kind of leave it up in the air for you guys. If you are interested in what I might have to say about Peacemaker Season 2 or Ghost of Yotei, even though it's kind of out of season for those two topics, you can let me know, and I might still get around to those. I might drop a poll. It might be a Patreon thing, who knows? I gotta give you guys a reason to go hit up the Patreon. Anyway, we're here today to talk about Ninja Gaiden 4, which just came out about a week ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago now. But I was out of town when it came out. I started playing it pretty much as soon as I could when I first got back. Now that it's here and I've played it, I have a lot of things to say. And I want to say right at the top of this review that I liked it. I liked Ninja Gaiden 4. I liked it quite a lot. I think it is a good, really good game. It's not quite great, and it's far from amazing, but it is a pretty good game. Which really, when a franchise is gone for as long as this one is all you can ask for. But that being said, it's because I greatly enjoyed it that I can be so critical towards it. This review is going to kind of skew towards the more negative side. I'm going to be critiquing it more than I'm praising it. And if your takeaway at the end of this video is that I am lying to you and that I did not overall enjoy the game, that's completely fine. But I want you to know I do like the game. That's why I can be this harsh towards it, because I wanted more, but I did still enjoy what I got. Because when you scrape everything away, what you're left with from Ninja Gaiden 4 is the template for a really great game down the line. Maybe Ninja Gaiden 5 is going to be incredible, but right now, Ninja Gaiden 4 is the game that we have, and it's the game that we're going to talk about. Now, the tricky thing with Ninja Gaiden 4 is that it's difficult to talk about in a vacuum because of its genre and its presentation and the people that made it. You know, one of the reasons that people got so hyped about this game was that A, Ninja Gaiden was back, but B, it was made by Platinum Games. And that name has a lot of weight because of the landscape of character action hack and slash games since the last Ninja Gaiden game even came out. Now, Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, I think, came out in 2012, right? And a lot has happened in the sphere since then. God of War did one last hack and slash game and then came back with these two open world RPGs. You know, Devil May Cry got rebooted and then went back to its original timeline. Bayonetta came back with two new games. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance came out. Nier Automata came out. Darksiders has come back with two new games. You know, it's just the lens. Even Strider came back, and I think that Strider has had a lot of influence on Ninja Gaiden 4, because while there's always been a nice balance of the fantastical and the sci-fi, this game is like really sci-fi inspired, and it's cool. It's a great aesthetic. I like it. It does help it to stand apart from other hack and slash games like this. But I mean, like I said, the genre has just changed so much, and now it's kind of competing against contemporaries that have evolved past what Ninja Gaiden ever was. You know, the appeal of just being difficult isn't really enough anymore, because, I mean, if we're being honest, since the last Ninja Gaiden game came out, Dark Souls 1 also came out. So much has changed since Ninja Gaiden 3 when it comes to hack and slash character action, when it comes to difficult video games, when it comes to Eastern games of this influence. And when you look at Ninja Gaiden 4, I want to compare it directly to another game with the number 4 in its title, Devil May Cry 4. And it's not just because I've been replaying Devil May Cry recently and I'm currently on DMC4. There's just so much that this game has in common with that one. And the first thing that I want to talk about there is that you're playing as a new guy. You're not really Ryu Hayabusa in this game. You're a guy named Yakumo from the Raven clan. And it's cool. You know, Yakumo is interesting. And when you first get your hands on the game, you feel powerful, you feel tough, you feel badass. And you pretty much feel powerful and badass for most of the game. Even as the skill ceiling continues to rise and the difficulty continues to rise. Because it is a very difficult game. It's a tough game. It will kick your ass. You do still feel badass. Most of the time, when you die, it's because you made a mistake. But, the thing that's difficult with Yakumo, much like Nero, is that for as cool as he may be, and as fun as he may be to play, he's not Ryu. Nero is not Dante. But Ryu is on the box art of the game, so you're kind of expecting to get to play as him at some point, and you're just waiting, and waiting, and waiting, and waiting until the game is 75% over. And then you start and finish playing as Ryu within about 1 hour. For context, this game took me about 8.5 hours to beat, including all the times I got killed. And that's not skipping any cutscenes or anything like that. The game is less than 10 hours long, and only one of those hours, if you die multiple times, which is going to be very difficult playing as Ryu, only one of those hours is as Ryu. And it's frustrating, because when you finally do play as Ryu, you fight the same bosses that Yakumo has been fighting all game. The same bosses, with the exception of Ryu, because you do fight Ryu as Yakumo. Obviously, you're not going to fight Ryu as Ryu, but you fight Ryu as Yakumo twice. Much like Nero fights Dante twice. Much like Dante fights all of Nero's bosses in Devil May Cry 4, but in a backwards order. It's so strikingly familiar when you're playing it that it's hard to think of anything else once you see the similarities. And much like Devil May Cry 4, the game is designed around Yakumo's gameplay and his system mechanics. So when you start playing as Ryu, it doesn't feel right, you know. And I'll admit that a long time has passed since I played any of the older games, since I played Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, or 3. And I mean, I was a kid when I was playing those. I don't really remember too much about them specifically, so there may be things in this game that are in those old games that I just don't remember, and I could be unfairly judging Ninja Gaiden 4. If that's true, oh well. I'm not saying that a thing is bad because it's unfamiliar, or because it goes against the identity of Ninja Gaiden. If a thing is bad, it's because it's just poorly implemented in this particular game. For instance, the traversal options, like the vehicle sections, the on-rail stuff, literally on rails. There's rail grinding, and there's, you know, you can like surf, and you can glide and stuff. And a lot of times, not only are you fighting the enemies in this game, you're also fighting the mechanics, because it just does not control very well. It feels impossible to steer. It's like you're playing yourself in the third person on a controller. That's how unresponsive it feels sometimes to steer. The control scheme when you're on rails is just so counterintuitive compared to even Crash Bandicoot 4, compared to Ratchet and Clank, to any game that has rail grinding. It's better there than it is here. And it's mind-blowing, because this is a game in 2025. Why is the rail grinding so poorly implemented? You know? But then when you're Ryu, you do all the same stuff. You can still rail grind. You're just running on the rails instead of grinding on them. You can still surf, but you're just running across the top of the water instead of actually surfing. It's just like the game that's built around Yakumo's specific systems and mechanics, but you're now playing as Ryu. And another thing is that it's so late in the game by the time you start playing as him, it's hard to not feel like you've been Metroided or Norded, and you're just back to basics. And so the game gives you copious amounts of resources to buy moves and to buy skills to catch up to the same level of gameplay that you just had as Yakumo this whole time. But by then, it's too little too late. It's literally too little too late because you're only going to play as Ryu for the next 30 minutes or so. And then you're right back to Yakumo, and then the game's over. It's really frustrating, especially because playing as Yakumo has another similarity with Devil May Cry 4 with Dante, where you can switch weapons on the fly. And that was always something you could do in Devil May Cry, especially after the second game. You can switch weapons on the fly, but in Devil May Cry 4, you can also switch styles. You can switch from Trickster to Royal Guard to Gunslinger to Swordmaster on the fly. And in this game, you can switch from your dual katanas to your lance, to your staff, which turns into a hammer, and your, I don't know, Generator Rex abilities, where you just start producing shurikens and stuff to throw. It's really weird. The last weapon that you get is very strange, and it feels like they ran out of ideas and just wanted a fourth weapon. But the difference between switching styles in Devil May Cry 4 and switching weapons in Ninja Gaiden 4 is that in Devil May Cry, certain styles and certain weapons can be chained into each other within a combo to maximize damage and to maximize results when you're fighting different types of enemies in a different situation. In Ninja Gaiden 4, they are extremely nebulous. If you want to, you can just run the dual katana the entire game. You're gonna unlock the same moves that go based on the same inputs and look functionally the same. The only difference is the weapon that you're. So there's really not a way to have a favorite weapon in the game like there is in, say, Ghost of Yotei. In Ghost of Yotei, my favorite weapon I thought was going to be the Kusarigama. When I first saw that the game was announced and that there'd be different weapons, that's what I thought was going to be my favorite. But by the time I was actually done with the game, the spear had become my favorite. There's nothing like that for Ninja Gaiden 4 though, because the weapons don't change anything from a functional sense. It's just an aesthetic thing and what the, execution animation is like. And that leaves a lot to be desired, The big thing with this game being developed by Platinum is like, this is the Metal Gear Rising team. This is the Bayonetta team. This is the Nier Automata team. But a lot of fans of Platinum Games will tell you that, like, that Platinum Games is gone, and they've been gone for some time. It kind of gets worse too when you add the Blood Raven form that you can go into if you hold L2. It gives you access to like stronger, more damage dealing attacks, and it spends this meter that you build as you form your combos and everything. And you would expect it to be like a Devil Trigger type of mechanic where it gives you like basically a whole new tool set, but it's really not that. It just lets you do one or two stronger moves until you burn the meter, and most of the time it's only useful to disrupt an opponent's like what's it called, like super armor that they go into. Like they'll go into like a really sturdy block that you can't get through with a regular attack, so the best thing to do is to hit L2 and then try to hit them again. It kind of just becomes like use it when the game tells you to, and it does kind of suck out some of that creativity, at least in my experience. It could absolutely be a skill issue. It could be that I just was not playing the game correctly, because one thing about this game is you do have to play it the way that it wants to be played. You have to master its mechanics like any game, truly. You can't just be like, oh, well, I've got enough game sense from all these other games that I've played, I can just muscle my way through this. It doesn't work exactly like that for this. And that's not a problem at all. I just felt like my creativity was hindered as somebody who is a huge Devil May Cry fan, somebody who played the old God of War games all the time, somebody who played Darksiders. It's weird to feel as though God of War Ascension gives you more freedom of combat than a Ninja Gaiden game would, but that's just kind of where we are. Now, I do want to briefly talk about story, because I remember the IGN review of this game saying that, like, oh, the story is really weak. And people can poke fun at IGN if they want, for whatever reason. I'm never going to defend IGN. But even in a game like Ninja Gaiden, where you're playing it for the action, for the gameplay, the story is the motivating factor behind what you're doing. Without a story, there's no reason for Yakumo to be doing. The frustrating thing about the story in this game is that it refuses to characterize anybody for any reason. Briefly, the story is that there was this ancient dragon lord that was too powerful to be defeated by anybody other than someone from the Raven clan. Even Ryu Hayabusa couldn't do it. They killed him and he just came back. So they decided to seal him away, and there's this priestess that helped to create the seals, and they guarded the seals with these monsters, and now Yakumo, being from the Raven clan, is gonna go kill the dark dragon, and he's gotta break the seals with the priestess that made the seals. And that's really the story. That's really the plot of the game. That's it. And it's they want this air of mystery because, you know, the priestess is being held in like a Hayabusa facility. So it's like, oh, we're going like against Ryu. And then you fight him at a certain point in the game, but then you find out that it was pretty much all set up by the priestess, whose name is Sayori, and Ryu in the past, as a test for Yakumo to see if he was really the ninja of legend that could do this very specific task. So everything was put in place by Ryu and Sayori so that Yakumo could come and eventually do it. And so it just makes you wonder, why is Ryu fighting me? Why is Ryu standing in my way if this is what he wanted in the first place? And it's annoying because Ryu serves no purpose in the plot other than to give Yakumo a rock. He gives Yakumo a rock that reacts with this other thing that he has, and it forms the dragon-slaying sword that you use in the final fight. And that final fight, you know, on the topic of Devil May Cry 4, have you fought the Savior? Yeah, you're gonna be thinking about that while you're fighting this final boss. But that's neither here nor there. It's annoying when you realize that, like, the one thing that Ryu actually does in the story could have been done by Sayori. She could have given you a rock at any given moment. She's the one that gave it to Ryu to give to you. And with the exception of, you know, getting those flashback scenes of Ryu establishing the seals that Yakumo is breaking, he has no bearing on the plot whatsoever. If you take Ryu Hayabusa out of the Ninja Gaiden game, nothing happens. Isn't that just weird? Isn't that a weird thing to think about? Because you can't really just ignore the story of the game for the sake of gameplay, especially because there's like a betrayal that happens towards the end. You know, this character that's been on your side the whole time turns into a demon, and you have to kill him, and I'm like, I'm sorry? Am I supposed to be moved by this? He only appears in like 3 cutscenes, he yaps in your ear the whole time. It's like, I have no connection as to who this is, and him turning evil really has no bearing on my opinion of the story of this game whatsoever. So it is an extraordinarily weak story. Now, like I said, the older games came out a long time ago. I do not remember the plots of Ninja Gaidens 1, 2, and 3. I know there's like a curse or something in Razor's Edge, that's all I can really remember. I don't know if those plots were any good or not. I don't know if the plot to the NES games. I do know that the plot to this game is not good. And where Devil May Cry 4 kind of does leave you wanting to play Nero some more, Ninja Gaiden 4 doesn't really do that for me. It just makes me miss Ryu, because, like I said before, it refuses to characterize anybody. Yakumo's character traits are he curses a lot, and he can't be bothered to do anything. He's like Shikamaru, but not as cool. I don't find that interesting. I find that really boring, especially in a protagonist. If they want this to be the guy moving forward, this is not a very strong first impression. Not in the slightest. But the game's fun. You know, the game is fun when you're not fighting against its mechanics, and when you are just enjoying the combat. There's some enemies that are like really damage sponges, even on normal, because I played the game on normal. So I can't even imagine on hard what it's like, because you'll pop your big sweeping attack that's supposed to like clear the arena of all enemies, and then he'll just get back up, and there's like 3 of them in the arena at a time, and so you're just like fighting these 3 enemies for 20 minutes. It's insane. But when stuff like that isn't happening, and when you are just, you know, engrossed in the moment-to-moment gameplay, the game is a lot of fun. Like I said before, the game is not bad. I had fun playing the game. Hey, it may not seem like it, but I did have fun playing the game. I had a lot of fun playing. I just wanted more. That's really all it comes down to. And it's not that I'm being ungrateful for what I did get. It's just when you hear Platinum Games is making Gaiden game, it puts a certain expectation in your. If that expectation is not met, it can be just a little disappointing. That being said, I'm optimistic for Ninja Gaiden 5. It would be nice to have that by 2027 or 8. We'll see how this goes. I don't know how hot it's been selling. I played this game on Game Pass. I imagine a lot of people played it on Game Pass as well. I want the series to continue, obviously, but I don't necessarily feel like I would have felt good about spending $60 on this game for the enjoyment that I get. I would say it's a 7 out of 10. And I know people hear 7 out of 10, it's like, wow, you're calling the game mid. No, if I was calling it mid, I'd call it a 5. 7 is good. A 7 out of 10 is a good game. It just could have been great, and by all rights should have been great. But it just wasn't. But I'm back. That's what I think about Ninja Gaiden 4. Hopefully, I can get you at least 2 videos a week going forward for the rest of the year. That would be nice. Going into 2026, I don't really know what things are going to look like. I didn't really expect them to be the way that they were in 2025. But we're just doing the best we can one day at a time. If you're glad to hear from me again, leave a like, leave a comment. I'm sure you will. Subscribe if you're, and check out the Patreon, man. I want to get some stuff going on the Patreon, but like, I don't really feel motivated to do that unless one of you guys, you know, decides to support me over there. But it's also, I feel bad asking you to support me if there's nothing over there for you to interact with just yet. It's a vicious cycle, but there's some stuff over there, for you guys to look at. So yeah, go down and check out that Patreon, and I'll see you soon.